crush you like a paper cup.
All right, so this is where we tell you what our must-starts are, what our must-sits are. Who we loving this week? Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, the one guy who I'm willing to play against your 49ers is Khalil Shakir. I think it's the archetype of wide receiver that has done pretty well against you. Your guys like JSN, the slot guys, but slot guys that can move all over the place, can run routes at all levels of the field, and a quarterback who's going to throw it to all levels of the field. I don't think you've played a passing attack quite like what Josh Allen and them has going, and the production for Khalil Shakir, has been pretty good over the last month. But I think what's better than the production over the last month is the usage, how he's getting used. He's running routes at all levels of the field. He's getting moved around all of the field. He's playing on the outside. He's playing on the inside. He's running in, out. He's not. There's a lot of receivers around the league right now that are very static. They're running a lot of the same routes, and he's not one of those guys. He is someone that has the trust of the coaching staff to run the full route tree. And with that, and with an elite quarterback, and with the current trajectory, of your 49ers, he's the guy that I'm willing to play into a rough matchup out of the wide receivers in that group.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that it?
Yeah, it is. We're good.
Edited on that one.
Yep.
I'm going to do you one better. Lenore might not play. Cornerback for the Niners. Nick Bosa is probably not going to play again this week. We still haven't seen Charvarius Ward be able to make his comeback with his sabbatical. Not only is Shakir a must play, Amari Cooper might be a must play by the time it's all said and done. We get the injury reports on Friday. I'm just saying, must play all Buffalo Bills. Must play Keon Coleman, who might not even be out there. Just play them all this upcoming Sunday. I'm going to tell you that right now. All right, Chris, let's go to you, man. Who you crushing on this week?
My crush is Tony Pollard, a guy that Dynasty people had hated. Not Dynasty fans people had hated going into the season, except for some of us. But it's the guy who's taking over the backfield. Tajay Spears is out again this week, more than likely. Whenever he's been out, we've seen Tony Pollard be the man in the backfield, over 20 carries, 20 touches, over 100 yards every time that Tajay Spears has been out. A guy who has a decent matchup again this week. I love Tony Pollard. I think ECR has him 20. I think Tony Pollard's a must start this week.
Yep. I like that one a lot, especially if Tajay Spears does, in fact, miss. We know he gets all the bulk of the work. Chase, who you loving?
Hold on, Chase. Also, Chase, another question for you, too, I think here. And what are you pairing with your fantasy win? Bourbon, whiskey, or brandy and old-fashioned?
Listen, I'm from Wisconsin, so the only answer is brandy right there. Now, I'm holding up Driftless Glen. Now, normally in Wisconsin, we use Corbel. Corbel sells more brandy in Wisconsin than anywhere else in the world for them. But yeah, definitely going with brandy here because a brandy old fashioned sour is the way I like it. But brandy old fashioned is the only way to do it in Wisconsin. Ask for it anywhere else, they'll use whiskey, but it's brandy.
What are you, 100-year-old brandy? What are you kidding me?
Hey, welcome to Wisconsin, buddy. Hey, it's not like we don't know how to drink here either. I mean, it's kind of what we do.
No,
what else?
Clearly just
what the hell else is there to do? There's not. I mean, we live where we live. Sorry, but and you know, yeah, we're definitely quantity, but I believe we're quality as well. But all right, so hey, my crush this week is Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am loving Bucky. We've talked about some running backs this week already. He's running back 16 overall right now in ECR, but he's going to be my running back 13 this week. He finally outsnapped Rachaad White this year for the first time coming out of the Bucs week 11 bye. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry last week. He caught all 6 of his targets. Now, I know some people have been scared off of the Buccaneers backfield because it's Bucky and it's Rachaad White and Sean Tucker vultured his second touchdown of the season last week. But don't be scared off of this Buccaneers backfield. This is a top 5 offense in the league right now in terms of scoring, in terms of yards per play. They're top 10 in rushing. They're top 10 in passing yardage. And listen, outside of the Chargers in week 15, they have a great fantasy schedule going for the rest of the season. This is an offense you want to be buying into and taking advantage of right now, not shying away from. Since week 7, both Bucky Irving and Rachaad White have been either an RB1 or an RB2 play every single week outside of Bucky having a subpar showing against the Chiefs in week 9. But they've both been usable running backs every single week. And Bucky had back-to-back top 6 showings here the last 2 weeks, okay? They're using Bucky all over the field, too. They've given him the most looks inside the red zone on their team. He's seen 1.5 opportunities inside the 20 to every 1 opportunity for Rachaad White. And when you get close to the goal line inside the 5, that ratio still holds true. So it's not like it's been Rachaad White's thunder to Bucky Irving's lightning or whatever. In fact, if anything, they've used Rachaad White more in the passing game than Bucky Irving when we kind of thought it might have been the opposite. So as for Sean Tucker, I know that we're all scared off about him, but outside of week 6, when Rachaad White didn't play, Sean Tucker hasn't even been anything close to a limiting factor here for either one of those top two running backs in Tampa Bay. Sean Tucker had a great week 6, and yes, he vultured a touchdown last week, but I just told you, even with him in the mix, the two of them are top running back 1, running back 2 type plays. They're top 24 type plays every single week. This week, they're facing a Carolina defense that gives up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. I'm firing up Bucky with confidence. I'm not shying away from Rachaad White either. And hey, shake and bake, baby Baker Mayfield, but fire up Bucky Irving this week. He's my crush.
Mm-hmm. You can't argue when he's playing against Carolina Panthers. All right, so let's get to my crush of the week. And I had to give this guy a shout out because he's been pretty much on my bench in my rankings. Don't want to play him almost the entire season. This is the first week where I'm actually going to play this guy with some confidence. Like he's still not my top 24, but I'm talking about Michael Pittman here. ECR's got him at wide receiver 38. I have him at wide receiver 28. I do think he is a mid-level wide receiver 3, should at least be a flex play if you play with 2 wide receivers in your leagues. No Josh Downs, so there should be some target consolidation. Yes, he still has an Anthony Richardson problem. No doubt about it. They're going outside to play the New England Patriots this week. It's going to be actually a decent weather. They're not calling for snow, not too much wind. It's going to be like 45 degrees. We should be okay. Over the last 2 weeks, even with Josh Downs on the field, the Colts have or Richardson, I should say, has targeted him 29%. That's a really healthy target share. That's something he wasn't seeing early in the year with Anthony Richardson. He's made a point to go after and get Michael Pittman involved. And you're going up against the Patriots, who have allowed the 10th most points to the wide receivers. I mean, Christian Gonzalez, supposed to be their shutdown corner, hasn't shut down a shadow this year. So Michael Pittman is somebody I think you can play with confidence this week, at least as a wide receiver 3 or as a flex play. All right, so with that, let's wrap this thing up with our busts. Go, Adam.
All right, so I'm breaking the rules here a little bit. I was struggling. The ECR is starting to lock in a little bit. But I will say this: ECR has moved Joe Burrow down. You play Joe Burrow. I'm not going to tell you to not play Joe Burrow, but boy, you don't feel good about it this week. Like not even close. Joe Burrow is on the cusp of that. Like if he wasn't Joe Burrow, you're not playing him, because this Steelers pass rush is an order of magnitude better than the Philadelphia Eagles pass rush, and that was really what killed him that game. The defense gave up on him, that's for sure. But the 2 best pass rushers the Bengals have played this year are the Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles. It is no coincidence that the 2 worst by far fantasy and real life performances from Joe Burrow this season are those 2 games. I'm sorry if you have a pass rush like what the Steelers have, and you were able to take that against this Bengals offensive line, especially in the AFC North, especially in sub-freezing temperatures. I'm sorry. You're starting Joe Burrow, but be very well prepared for him to score in the teens, which is fine. That is survivable, but just know that you might want to have some upside prepared in other positions with that in mind, because the 30-point Joe Burrow might be back next week, but it's not this week. It's just not.
Oh, man. Joe Burrow going down. There goes Joe Frazier. All right, so Adam's not loving Joe Burrow for a ceiling play this week. Chris, who you busting on this week?
In a similar vein, I'm not necessarily saying you can't play this guy, but I'm definitely not loving the ceiling, and I am a little bit concerned about what you're going to have for your floor. Devon A-Chain has been a guy who's been heavily involved for the Miami Dolphins offense. They throw the ball to him, they run the ball, but it's not the same Devon A-Chain we've seen in the past. He's not quite as explosive. We've seen the yards per carry go down. We've seen the yards per reception go down. We're not seeing all the touchdowns. And as Chase talked about earlier in the show, it's going to be feel like it's sub-degree temperatures in the Green Bay. It's going to be very cold. Speed doesn't necessarily play very well in the cold. Neither do guys weighing 180 pounds. Adam knows this from our previous shows. I always advocate now it's time to add yourself a big running back because usually their guys pay off come the playoff stretches when it gets cold. Well, Devon Chain is not that kind of back. Miami Dolphins offensive line is not a physical offensive line. It opens up holes. I have grave concerns for this Dolphins team in general. I have other concerns for Devon A-Chain as RB6 for ECR this week. I do not think he's going to be one of the top guys you want to have in your lineup this week.
180. Did you put a 45 pound on his back? That's a little generous. Chase, what do you got as your bust of the week here?
Yeah, I might be cheating a little bit, but any Arizona Cardinal not named Trey McBride is on my bust list this week. This really should be a better offense than it has been overall fantasy-wise this year, it feels like. James Conner's been usable this year, and he's proving that his hot finish to last year wasn't necessarily a fluke, but he has yet to score a receiving touchdown on the year. Marvin Harrison Jr., I know we talked about him earlier. I know you guys like him. Yes, the Vikings give up a ton of points to opposing wide receivers. But listen, he's shown flashes, but he has not been that target monster that a lot of us thought he was going to be. And, the future's still bright there, but he hasn't been everything that we thought he would be. Michael Wilson hasn't been any better than a dart throw this season. Greg Dortch has been unusable. The offense just hasn't done a whole lot this year. And Kyler Murray has only had one instance this season where he's been a startable QB1 in back-to-back games. That was week 7 and week 8. He was QB7 and he was QB12 in back-to-back weeks. Otherwise, he has gone from being a QB1-ish to being like QB24, QB31 1 week. And the frustrating thing is he's been really efficient this season. He's actually averaging his highest yards per carry of his career. He should finish with his second most rushing scores in a season. He's been effective when he's run. But the problem is he's rushing at the lowest rate of his career by far. He's doing fewer than 4.4 rush attempts a game. You contrast that to his first 4 years in the league. He attempted between 6 to 8 rushes a game. He has his second highest passer rating for a season this year so far. He's averaging his second highest yards per pass. He's been good, but his top receiver is his tight end, and his tight end, by the way, still doesn't have a touchdown on this season. It's all averaged out to the fact that Kyler is having his worst fantasy output per game so far in his career this year. This week, Arizona is facing a Viking defense that allows the second fewest points to running backs, the 12th fewest points to opposing quarterbacks. I know they give up a ton of points to opposing wide receivers, but I just told you, Marvin Harrison doesn't see the ball enough to make a consistent difference. Now, as I said, McBride has held strong this year, even without scoring a touchdown, so I still like him. He's too consistent to bench, especially at that tight end position, but I am steering clear of this offense this week if I can get points from anywhere else. Lesai.
All valid points there for sure. So this one might hurt you, Chase. My bust guy, one of your Green Bay Packers, is Jayden Reed. So I'm having the same dilemma with him I had with Jalen Waddle a few weeks ago, where he keeps getting ranked as a starting wide receiver. ECR's got him ranked at wide receiver 24. I got him at wide receiver 33. I'm probably going to push him down even lower than that before that game kicks off tomorrow to get him outside my top 36, because he's a guy I'm completely fine with benching, not just this week, but until they get him back involved in a regular rotation, maybe even the rest of the season. I mean, he's been ice cold. Only one.
Dan, real quick. I don't mean to cut you off. The ice cold part, do you think there's anything with him getting touches in the outside catching the ball that could be effective for him in the cold weather tomorrow? Because that's where I like Jayden Reed.
No. And I'm going to get to why in a second. So he's only at one top 20 finish in the last 5 games. Other than that, he's been wide receiver 38 or worse. 3 of the games, he didn't even finish inside the top wide receiver 50. He hasn't had more than 6 targets since week 4. And he's been under that mark more times than not since. If Romeo Doubs misses, guess what? Dontavian Wicks steps in. It doesn't affect Jaden Reed's role at all. There's not target consolidation there for his favor. And here's why, Chris, it's not going to matter. The defense has played particularly well against slot wide receivers, and they've allowed the least amount of fantasy points to the wide receivers so far this season. He's actually projected to see Jalen Ramsey more so than any other cornerback on the other side of the secondary. At best, he's a boomer bust. Yes, it only takes one play. He's a quality player on a quality offense. That's the only reason why we have to keep flirting with him. I think it's a wide receiver 3, but the idea that you should lock him in as the top 24 receiver is ridiculous, and I would look for other options this week.
Well, and to Chris's point about like, oh, well, it's going to be cold. He might get the ball other ways. Jaden Reed, for all the talk about being Deebo Samuel light or whatever the hell everybody wants to make him out to be,
That one carry.
he has not run the ball more than twice in a game all season. Yeah, he doesn't see the ball enough to be consistent. It frustrates me because I think he's a weapon, but they just don't get him the ball enough in any way, shape, or form. So I'm completely with you on this one, Dan. It doesn't break my heart because I just know what's coming.
Just like I know the 49ers are going to get their asses stomped on Sunday. All right, so with that wraps up our Thanksgiving special. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. We'll be back next week at 9:30 Wednesday on the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and check out Operation Domination Football, your favorite podcast app, especially while you're going down and seeing your families there on the long road trips ahead. Everybody, good luck this weekend. We'll be back next week. Hey there, I want to thank you for watching Operation Domination today. And if you're enjoying the show, there are some ways you can help support us. You can go to podchaser.com/Operation Domination and leave us a 5-star review. And you can do this on any podcast platform or on our YouTube page when you go to @FF Advice Network. This completely helps out the show be able to grow, and also leave us comments to let us know how we can curtail the show to you, because you are the most important member of the show. So again, go to podchaser.com/Operation Domination to leave a 5-star review and leave a comment wherever you listen or watch the show, and we'll help better serve you.
Cranberry sauce. Hell yeah.
That's a good way for the end cap because I'm so